Okay, so we're up to chapter 21, verse 3. Vayikra, this is the reading for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Vayikra Avraham et Shem beno Noad lo asher yaldalo Sarah Yitzchak. And Avram called the name of his son who was born to him, that Sarah gave birth to him. He called him Yitzchak. Vayamo Avraham et Yitzchak beno. And Abraham called Isaac. Hold on, let's look at the Rashi for this. Vayamo Abraham. Okay, no Rashi there. Vayamo Abraham at Yitzchak beno, and Abraham circumcised Isaac his son, who was ben Shmonat Yamim, who was 8 days old. Kasher tzivah Elokim. Just like, let me just put the my AirPods in. Makes it a little easier. Okay. Oh, here we go. Hold on one second. Isaac his son when he was 8 days old, just like God had commanded him. Avram ben Ma'at Shana, and Abram was 100 years old. When Isaac his son was born to him. Tomer Sarah, and Sarah said, Tzachok asali Elokim. God made for me a tzchok. He made for me something, laughter. Whoever hears will laugh for me. Rashi says, whoever hears, yismach alai, will rejoice over me. Does not mean will laugh at me. It means they will laugh for me. Midrash Agadah, and the Midrash tells us something very beautiful and powerful. On the day Isaac was born, Harbe akarot nifkedu ima. Many infertile women were remembered and conceived along with Sarah. Harbe cholim nisrapu bo bayom. Many sick people were cured on that day. Harbe tfilot ne'anu ima. Many prayers were answered along with her. V'rav tzchok haya boa. There was much cheerfulness in the world. So this is a powerful idea, a very powerful idea, that on the day that Isaac was born, well, Tira, you said it was beautiful. Let's hear why you said it was beautiful.
I think it's beautiful that much holiness and healing is associated with Yitzchak.
Exactly. That's what I feel too, that it was just associated that because the true tzaddik, this goes back to a theme we said yesterday, the true tzaddik doesn't just pray for themselves. And how could he really be rejoicing? How could Sarah be rejoicing when she saw other people were in pain? So she was happy that day, not just because of herself, but because everybody else was rejoicing. And that's the challenge when we're in our moments of joy, to try and extend it elsewhere. But I see Judah Shore has come on. Judah, you didn't return the call today because we had a question for you. I don't know if you heard that question. We wanted your opinion, but maybe afterwards we'll call you. He's on mute. Can't hear him.
You're talking to me?
Yeah, we left you a voicemail today. I did a call with you. I did a call for you with Jill.
But wait, one second. With Jill who?
Jill, your friend. The one who got the defibrillator from you.
A year ago.
Oh, okay.
We left you a voicemail. We wanted to know about a certain place that's right near your house. We thought you would be an expert and know all.
River's Edge.
You ever hear of River's Edge?
River's Edge is a nursing home. It was bought up by the Jewish Home and Hospital. Bought them.
You know anything about it? We'll talk later.
Okay, sounds good.
But stay on, Judah. Stay on. Okay. Yeah. So anyway.
No, just the other way around also. You said when people are happy, no, when she's happy, she should make people happy, is what you just said?
Yes.
So same thing I see, something's in the OR, something bad is happening, and, the patient has to wake up, everyone runs laughing and joking.
Wait, Judah, you cut out. Hold on. Judah, you cut out. What were you saying?
Just the opposite also is true that I know in the OR sometimes, patient has a bad diagnosis, and before they wake up, all the people there are laughing and, talking about work and this and that. And the patient's starting to wake up a little bit. And I don't like them to come into a lot of frivolity when they're going to be here in a little while that, it couldn't make it or whatever happens. So that's also true. If they're down, you shouldn't have a great time in front of them
You
versus
should be laughing when somebody's going through dark period. You shouldn't just be laughing.
right.
There's a third idea that somebody who has negative energy and comes into a situation creates negative energy for everybody. That's also very dangerous in a situation. You bring your negativity into a group and then it spreads. Hold on, hold on, I need to text this person.
Just be
You have to be joyful all the time.
Just be neutral, don't be so negative. You want to be joyful.
Because Steve said, be joyful even in bad times.
Well, that's easier said than
I know,
done.
it's easier, that's what I tell my teacher. It's easier said than done. But he said, the text says, be joyful even when bad things happen.
The Hasidim say that?
We're reading the Tanya, line by line, and, yes.
Well, being joyful is different from trying to find the joy that there is in the world when that occurs. One is like you're deluding yourself, and the other is like trying to see the positivity that there is in the world.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's very, very hard. It's very, very hard, especially when you're in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
But we have each other to lift us up and make us happy. So that's why the rabbis say there's a phrase, Saros Rabim Chatzi Nechama, that if many people are suffering when you suffer, it's a little bit of a comfort. It's a half a comfort. Meaning if you're the only one who loses your job, it's really bad. But if half the people on your block lose your job, so then you're like, hey.
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
The way it
Well,
is.
you're less inclined.
You're not the only one who's suffering. Yeah.
You're less inclined to blame yourself.
Right.
Also.
Yeah, that's true.
Haven't been laid off with like
Right.
several
Yeah,
thousand people.
Yeah, it's
You realize, it's nothing that you did.
it's just a situation that you're in. Yeah. Okay, so Vatomer, verse 7. Vatomer, and she said, Me Bilel Abraham. She said, who is the one who said to Abraham, Hinika Vanim Sarah, would Sarah nurse children? Ki aladati ben liskunav. She said, who was the cynic who doubted the possibility of all this happening? Who's the one who doubted it? Because guess what? I did it. Mimi Lela Abraham. Who's the one who said to Abraham? Mashon Shevach v'chashivut. So this is an expression of Shevach and Chashivut. It's an expression of praise and distinguishedness. What does that mean? Ra'oi ra'u mihu v'kamu gadol shomer avtachto. Look and see who he is and how great he is, who keeps his promise. Umavtiach v'oseh. Meaning to say, so I read it differently. I had read it not like Rashi. I had read it that she was like taunting the person who was doubting it. But now if Rashi reads it, she's praising God. Who was the one who promised Abraham, Sarah will nurse? Because indeed I did give birth to a child in his old age. So she's praising God. And the verse said, Milel, Shina Katuv, V'lo Amar Diber. Rashi says the more common word to have been used, how do you say to speak in Hebrew? Ledaber, but instead it says milel. It's an unusual word. Why? Gematria shalom meya. The numerical value of the word milel is 100. Komar was self meya ala Avraham at the end of 100 years of Abraham's life. Hinika vanim Sarah. Sarah would nurse children. The end of 100 years of Abraham's life, Sarah would nurse children. Umahu banim Lashon Rabim. And what is the reason for the Torah's use of the word children in the plural? Why does it say Sarah nursed children? She only nursed one child. Whoa! Yad Hashem. What a blessing. But what is the whole idea that it says here? We're going through see, Seth was here yesterday. You could see the progress he's making on that beautiful menorah. I have to say that menorah is so sparkling. He says, what's the concept here that it says in the plural children? Yeah.
Mean all the children yet to come that she.
Sarah's their mother.
Yeah, the mother.
But she's not nursing the future children. I mean, she's.
Nursing is giving them nourish,
Oh.
through her.
Only a mother could say such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Very sweet. But let's see what Rashi says, because this is something you're going to see what happens here.
Unless it's Hagar's child, it's not her. It's not.
What?
It wouldn't be Hagar's child that she was nursing.
Right, well, let's see what it says. Rashi comes up. What does it mean? Why does it say children in the plural? Biyoma mishteh heviu asarot b'neihen imahem. On the day of their feast, the princesses brought their children with them. Veinika osam. Sarah started nursing everyone's child. Why? Shayu omros lo yalda Sarah ela asufia v'yamin ashuk. People were questioning. They were saying, we don't believe this Baba Maisa. Conspiracy theorists, they were denying it. They were saying it's not true. Sarah didn't give birth. No, but it never happened. They were denying it. So everybody brought their little babies, and Sarah proved it by nursing them. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I'm just curious. Do you ever nurse anybody else's baby? It's not a thing anymore. I don't want to say who, but I know somebody who did. Yeah.
But Rabbi, it's also like we should give them those non-Jewish women. We should give them the benefit of the doubt because Sarah was so modest that they never saw her pregnant.
Well, the word didn't spread. I mean, like there wasn't the internet. They didn't have the paparazzi taking the
Right,
photo.
but I'm saying, it says Sarah Ba'ohel, right? She's always she wasn't ever in
But
public.
okay,
walking
that's a
around with
nice
a
read.
stomach.
All right, fine. I accept it. That's all right. But the whole idea is that she had to prove herself. Judy, you're trying to say something too?
Yeah. I was. I'm gonna say everyone else. I was nursed by 3 women. My mother ran out, so my next door neighbor and my aunt. So in Israel in the 50s, this was done.
Well, and they didn't pump then.
No, that's true.
So it
No
has to be-
Interesting.
Judah, this is an interesting halacha that they ask. Moshe Rabbeinu, since we're talking about nursing, they say that Moshe Rabbeinu was when he was taken to be nursed. When the daughter of Pharaoh took him out of the water, she tried to get him to be nursed by all the Egyptian women, and Moshe kept refusing because he didn't want to nurse from non-kosher, from a mouth that ate non-kosher. He didn't want it because he could taste the food in there. So therefore, they had to bring Moshe back to Yocheved. So to nurse from Yocheved. But then the question becomes, so why couldn't Moshe nurse? It's not against halacha, but it's to say because the mouth that's going to speak to God shouldn't nurse from somebody who had just eaten non-kosher food. So then the Ramah records this halacha. It says that a baby should follow this approach to a baby. The baby shouldn't nurse from somebody who's not eating kosher food. The baby shouldn't drink the milk. The milk should come from a kosher source. So the question is, well, if we say this is just true about Moses, because the whole reason for Moshe only nursing from a woman who ate kosher was because he was going to speak to God. Why are we going to say this about other babies? So the teretz is, we have to look at every baby that's born as though they could be like Moshe Rabbeinu, that they have the ability to be like Moshe. You don't know that baby in front of you could be like Moses. That's the word. So anyway, okay. All right, so moving right along here. Vayigdal hayeled vayigamal. The child grew older and was weaned. Actually, here Rashi has an approach of what age he was weaned, but the Gemara actually brings multiple opinions. The Gemara in Ksubos has different approaches, but here Rashi is going to tell us Sof Esrim V'Arba Chodesh. After 24 months, she was weaned. But the Gemara there gives different approaches as to the weaning. But the Gemara also says that when a woman is nursing, she's allowed to use the birth control. And the reason is because it's considered to be dangerous. It was considered to be very dangerous for the baby if she became pregnant, because her milk would dry up and they wouldn't have the ability to feed the baby anything else. They didn't have what Judah had, multiple wet nurses, right? So
What was birth control in Moses' day?
in Moses or in the Talmud's day?
Either.
The Talmud discusses different birth controls. Some probably were more effective than others, but they had birth control.
Abstaining would be the most effective.
They don't talk about abstaining. They have birth control. They have something called the moch, which then they have a difference of opinion as to how it worked. But if you want to read about this, there's a nice book called Contraception in Jewish Law by or maybe it's Birth Control in Jewish Law by Feldman, and there's another book called Contraception by Noonan that's about Christianity and contraception. And if you read those two books and you're still awake, then you can talk to me. Yeah, because I couldn't get through either. No, the Feldman book is a classic, and the Noonan book is a classic. And I have them on my shelves. So okay. By the way, I want to give out a shout out to the Daf Yomi, since we're talking about Daf Yomi for tonight. I very, very rarely do I tell people who don't do Daf Yomi to tune into the Daf Yomi. I don't push it, but tonight is all about the mitzvah of honoring your father and mother. It's the classic text about honoring your parents, your father and your mother. What page? Kedushin 31.
Okay.
It's the classic stories about honoring your father and your mother.
7:20.
It's 7:20. Yeah, and also in the morning at 6:30 and 8 a.m. And it will be on YouTube for those who missed it. Okay. So she was weaned him at 24 months, and Avram made a mishteh gadol b'yom yigamel Yitzchak. Avram made a great feast on the day Isaac was weaned. Rashi says, Shahayu Shem Gedolei Ador, Shem va'Ever va'Avimelech. All the greatest of the generation came. Shem, Aver, and Avimelech. Rashi says, the interesting, why is he saying this? Because it's telling us that why was it a great feast? What makes something a great party? Not the food that was served, but who was there? Who was there? Anybody ever go to a wedding that was very lavish and say, that was an amazing wedding. Now I'm sure that they're going to have a great marriage. No, it doesn't mean it. It doesn't correlate. So the rabbis judge the party on the basis of the people in attendance. Yeah.
And the spirit in the room.
The spirit in the room, yeah.
When everyone is happy, the bride and groom are happy, the families are happy, the guests are happy.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
Baruch
Those
Hashem.
are the best weddings.
Yeah. Usually that's the case. Sometimes there's some
Sometimes it's
tension.
not like that.
Sometimes there's some tension, but not usually. Usually everybody's getting along. And then there's a very important verse. Vatera Sarah as Ben Hagara Mitzrit Asher Yodala Abraham Mitzachek. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, who was born to Abraham. She saw him Mitzachek. What does that mean? She saw him mocking. Mitzachek. Sarah saw Hagar's son. Why don't they say his name here? But the one who was also born to Abraham, she was Mitzachek. Rashi. What does it mean, Mitzachek? Rashi says, Lashon Avodah Zarah. She saw him worshiping idolatry. Now, this is not the literal text, it's Midrash, but Rashi does prove it from the actual text, because it states, Vayakumu Mitzachek, that in the Exodus story about the golden calf, it says they got up to be Mitzachek. There means idolatry. Davar Acher, alternatively, what did she see Yishmael doing? Mashon kiwoy arayot. She saw him engage in sexual immorality. Kama detema, as it states, "Litzachek bi," to make sport of me. So that was what Potiphar's wife accuses Joseph of being mitzachek bi. You had a question, Judah?
Yeah, the Shem and Aver have their shul, not usually. Did they have their school already there at that time?
Yeah, well, no, well, I don't know if I've been to their school. It's in Meron. Yeshiva Shem Ve'aver is right up there. Or maybe it's right next to Meron. It's right there. I went to it. But Yaakov Avinu went to study in the yeshiva.
Right. But the Torah wasn't given yet. What do they study?
They studied the great tzaddikim understood the Torah. The Torah predated the world, so the concepts of the Torah were there. The mitzvot weren't given, but the great tzaddikim understood. They knew how to speak to God. And we said also that that Rebecca, when she went to Hashem, she went out to seek God, to find answers to her problems. She went to Shem Ve'aver to discuss with them. So
when Isaac was born, Shem was already dead. Just to point out historically.
Yeah, no, Shem goes back to Noah.
Yeah, but I'm saying he was already dead. Ever was still alive when this verse was written about Yitzchak being born.
Rashi says in Parshas Toldos, Vatel Chadroshet Hashem, that Rebecca goes to seek out God. What does Rashi say? Let's see that.
Shem Va'ever, but I'm just saying it's like Yeshiva Elimelech. It's named for somebody, but he wasn't alive at the time
Hold on.
this was written.
What does it mean? Hold on. Let's see what it says, the exact language of Rashi. But Beit Midrasho shall Shem Ve'aver. She went to the base Medrash. Oh, so it's interesting. She didn't she just went to the base Medrash. She didn't go to talk to Shem. She went to his base Medrash. Okay, fair. Good point, Yeshua.
How old was Yishmael at this point?
Yishmael he was 13 when he was circumcised, and then Isaac was circumcised at 8 days. So presumably this is right after that.
Right.
So this is 1 year later.
Okay.
Oh no, but now it's 2 years after that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So now he would be 1 year after he was 13 was when Yitzchak was born. And then 2 years after that was when this took place. So he's between 15 and 16.
Okay, so Steins also comments on the sexual nature of whatever he was doing. It said in Gracious Rabbah, it goes into it. At that age, what does that mean? Like, what was he doing? That was a problem. Was he,
15-year-old
with another woman? Was he, what was the sexual sort of thing that Sarah banished him for?
The other thing.
Does he say? Does
The other thing.
I don't know. Right, Yosef wants to look up in Gracious Rabbah what they talk about.
Teenagers do things that they shouldn't do.
Okay, if that's what his act was,
but I don't know. Maybe
we
the
don't know
Midrash.
that. Or it's not clear by Rashi.
Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, well, then he's going to have a third approach. I was just thinking if he said specifically, also with Tzachik, I don't know exactly what he was teaching him, but it's possible if we looked up the source, it would tell us that. If we looked up the Midrash, but now he's going to have a different approach. We've seen it can mean idolatry. We've seen it can be adultery or immorality, sexual immorality. And now we have a third approach, Devar Acher, Lashon Ritzicha. It can mean murder. And now he cites a verse from Samuel 2:14, Yakumuna Anarim Visachku Efaninu. Let them sport before us. There was where Avner encountered Yoav, the commander of Saul's forces, encounters the commander of David's, and he suggests like gladiator armies which fight, the two armies fight. So it can mean in the Bible idolatry, adultery, or murder, or killing. Shaya and there means like sport, but a very dangerous sport. Hey. So
Like gladiators for no reason?
yeah,
Okay,
that's what it seems.
not for war.
I don't know, like they're being gladiators in the context of war in that comment.
Yeah, thousands of people were slaughtered at the cistern of Givon.
Right.
I'll tell you
The
this,
bracha-
Rob,
the big
definitely
bracha. That
makes
big
a lot-
bracha, by the way, is still there, and they found it in an archaeological excavation.
Yeah. Okay. And Seth was trying to say something.
I was just saying that this Rashi, these are pretty mostly severe things. It sheds some light on Sarah's decision, which, a lot of people thought was just jealousy for Hagar, but if she really saw something that was, problematic for him to be around, it really changes I think the playing field about, how she did it and why she did
That's
it.
such a bad.
Right. I think they're trying to justify. Rashi's trying to justify the
Expulsion.
expulsion. Are you trying to say something also, Judah?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, so then it says, let me finish the Rashi. Shaya Merivim Yitzlak. He used to contend with Isaac al Yerusha about the inheritance that they would receive at Abraham's death. And he would say, Ani Bechor, I'm the firstborn son. V'notel Pishnayim, I'm going to get a double share, which is technically correct. That's a verse it says it in Deuteronomy. It says it, and he would say, "V'yotzim they would go out to the field, v'notel kashto, and Yishmael would take his bow, v'yora bo chitzim, and he would shoot arrows at Isaac. Kama da'at amart, like he would say, kim kimit la'le'a, like one who tires himself, hayorez zikim, shooting fireballs." And he would say, I'm just joking around with you. I'm not serious. I'm just joking around with you. So that's the whole idea there. That's the whole idea. Okay, we just have time for one more and then we'll stop. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So what does it say? He says, the pasuk says, Vatomer Avraham, and this is the very powerful verse. He says, Garei Shama Zos, he says, expel this Amma, expel this maiden, Vet Bina, and expel her son, Kilo Yirash Ben Amma Zot, because we don't want to allow this son to inherit in B'niyim Yitzhak with my son, with Isaac, which is, by the way, a direct violation of the biblical verse in Kiteitzei, where we're specifically told that if you have a hated one, the hated one cannot, the son of the hated one cannot take precedence over the son of the beloved wife cannot take precedence over the son of the hated wife. And
She
here,
never got the status of wife.
what?
She never got the status of wife. She got the status of a surrogate mother.
Okay, fine, but it doesn't matter. I don't know that matters. If it's your firstborn son, he's supposed to get it regardless. It doesn't matter who his mother is. So, but anyway, let's see what Rashi says. I don't want this person to inherit with my son. Rashi says, Mikivan shehu b'ni, since he's my son, Yishmael shall not inherit with him. Even if you are not as upright as Yitzchak is, or if you were as upright as Yitzchak, even if you were not my son. This one Ishmael will not be worthy to inherit with him, meaning to say, he's not my son, and he's not righteous. So Kal v'chomer in B'niyim Yitzchak sheshtem bo. How much more so should she not inherit, because with my son, Isaac, he's not my son, and he's not as distinguished as Isaac. We'll just do one more verse. Vayerai davar va'od b'nei Abraham, and the matter was very bad in the eyes of Abraham. And this is the pregnant verse. Alodot b'no, the matter about his son. The question is, which son? Why is he upset? Which son? Rashi says, Sheshama, which son do you think he's upset about? It seems to be about Ishmael. But why is he upset? Why is he upset about Ishmael? You might think he's upset that he's supposed to expel him, but no, that's not what Rashi says. Rashi says, Sheshama sheyatzal tarbut ra. Rashi says, the Midrash says she was upset that he heard his son was bad. But and Rashi does offer the simple explanation, which is al shel merat lo shalcho, that she told him to send him away. So both of these are possibilities. The verse is ambiguous. Is she upset? Is he upset that he has to send her away? That he has to send him away, or is he upset that his son became bad? And probably it's both. Probably it's both. Okay, we'll stop the recording here to daven mincha, and guy won't pick it up. Pick it up. Okay.